everybody. I'm Hoardergamer, and this is Hoarder's Comic Flex. Thank you for watching. We've got some comic book reviews, we've got games, we've got toys, and then we're going to look at the very near future of comic books all the way to 1 week from today. We're going to start with a review of Blood Commandment number 1. And the reason I got this version of the book is that's kind of a Lost Boys homage right there. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's very similar to the poster from the original movie Lost Boys by Joel Schumacher. And that's one of my favorite vampire films. It's got a few scary moments, but it's got a lot more funny moments. And it's really a cool film. I've liked it for years. Anyway, Blood Commandment 1 is pretty good. The big strength is the marriage between the art and the writing. So I think I can kind of see where things are headed with the writing, and it's not super exciting. It's only going to be a 4-issue series, and it's pretty good. It's not bad writing. It's pretty good. But the fact that Szymon Kudranski does the art and writes the book, that is something you have to look at. So both those things together make it very compelling. And there's some very dark imagery that's really well done. And yeah, I think as the whole package, it's very good. But I feel that the art is stronger than the writing. And again, it's 4 issues. So at this point, I might just decide to get the trade when it's done. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a kind of cool vampire story in a very different way. It's got a little bit of a Last of Us vibe, kind of, sorta. Basically, it's a father teaching his son how to hunt and teaching his son, you know, what it means like to basically grow up, and his son dealing with the grief of the death of his mother, as well as the father dealing with that grief as well. And you find out that the reason that the kid can't go to school and all this other stuff going on, including the father can't do a number of things during the day, is that he's a vampire. And we get a little bit of inkling about his past, and another vampire shows up, and it looks like they kill a shopkeep in town. And they make a point of saying that in the forest where the cabin is, where the son and father live, that there's huge thick trees. So like even like during the day in a hunting scene, apparently the sun did not affect his father. So yeah, it's pretty good. I'm a little surprised because like Comic Book Roundup seemed to think it was amazing. And it's an aggregate score type of thing, similar to Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm not exactly sure what they saw that made it amazing, to be honest with you. It's good. I definitely think it's worth $4. But again, to me, the strength is the art. The art is really good. Hey, Misplaced. How you doing? But yeah, Blood Commandment. That is our first review today. And it was cool getting another vampire book, because I wanted to review Dracula. James Tynion IV, my good man. Because again, anytime I say the name James Tynion IV, I feel I need to say my good man afterwards. Would I say the same thing if it was like James Tynion II? Probably. James Tynion III? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Now, we're going to talk about video games. Okay, not the Lana Del Rey song, which is actually really surprisingly good. I got into that earlier this year because like everyone's going on about how great the video was and everything. So I saw the video and I saw the song a few times, or heard the song a few times, and yeah, I have to admit it's actually a really great song. But I digress. First up, everybody, Diablo 4. Okay, I know I seem to talk about Diablo 4 every week, and it might seem like I say the exact same thing every week. And in a few minutes from now, I will do that, but it'll make sense when I do it. It'll make sense. This week's very special, though. A BlizzCon. The Blizzard Convention, covering World of Warcraft, maybe StarCraft, and, you know, a little game called Diablo 4. Gonna guess probably Diablo Immortal as well. So, we are gonna find out about the new expansion. The new massive, huge expansion for Diablo 4. Because one of the big surprises we got this year was finding out from the Rod Ferguson, which is, I think, the director of the project, Diablo 4. It's the fact that we're getting a massive expansion every year. And I was shocked and very happy to hear that, because I love Diablo 3. It came out in like 2011 or 2012. Had a number of issues when it came out. I've talked about that before. They had like a weird auction house and all sorts of stuff, and it didn't have much of an end game at launch. Totally different situation with Diablo 3 now, and people love to play the seasons, especially this last one was really popular. Anyway, only one huge expansion, okay? And it was the Reaper of Souls, and it was like a Grim Reaper type of enemy, Malthael, and it was a really awesome battle. I'd say roughly about 3 or 4 hours, the expansion. Like, if you sought out and did all the mini side missions and stuff, like all the houses you can enter and stuff like that, maybe about 6 hours. Although, too, I have to also look at the fact that you would go from level 50 to level 70. So you could raise up that many, like 20 more levels. So that added some hours to it as well. Plus, I believe after that, or right around that time, is when they did Greater Rifts and really kind of cemented an end game. So the fact that we don't have to wait 3 or 4 years for an expansion, or not even 2, that we're getting one in like a year, so it could be probably as early as like June of 2024, 1 year after Diablo 4 launched, is insane to me. Now, what I'm hoping the expansion will be, what we know it will be, is a huge like story expansion, right? And the rumor from a leaker is it's going to be Kurast. And Kurast is where there was basically like a religious cult in a forest in Diablo 2. So I'm very excited to see how they're going to make this look in Diablo 4 with the engine and everything. I think it's going to be beautiful. My hope too with the expansion, will they have flying mounts? Sure. I think we both pretty much know they won't, but with Mike asking, I'm just going to be like, sure. Why not? Why not? Have it be like the Gremlins 2 sketch from Key and Peele. Everyone creates their own mount. Yours can be flying. We can have an electric mount. We can have a Brady mount that wears glasses. And a real, like, stupid as hell mount that's, like, jacked. We can do all that. Everyone gets their own mount. Everyone gets their own mount. Anyway. My hope is that we get everything that we got in the main game, but to a much smaller degree. So, the main game, you had the big campaign. That was big, though, man. The Diablo 4 campaign is no joke. It's like 40 hours. It's long. And that's just doing some of the side missions. And it's like exploring the map and everything like that. It's roughly around 35 to 40 hours to finish Diablo 4. Okay? So, I'm expecting a story campaign, you know, maybe about 6-8 hours, something like that. Okay? So, obviously not 35 or 40. A small, like, increment of that. World boss. I'm hoping that each expansion comes with a world boss. The game currently has 3 of them: Ashava, Wandering Death, and Avarice, the Gold Cursed. And these cool bosses that every, I think, 3.5 hours show up, and you and a random group of players, I believe it's up to 10 total, will take on this gigantic beast and get some pretty cool rewards for doing it, and some specific crafting materials, as I recall. So I really like doing those, and they actually made it easier to make it happen, because like it used to be every 6 hours or something, and the chance of you getting a world boss that you could do was really rare. So also, they had beautiful side missions with the campaign, like fully voice acted, and not just like fetch quest and like surprises that would occur, and this little mission would turn into a group of missions, like a mission chain, okay? And these just destroyed the bounty missions that were like in Diablo 3. They were really well done. So I'm hoping to get a few more of those. And it was pretty wild. Each region had like 25 or 30 of those. And that would be my hope, to get maybe like 20, 25 of them. The idea that, again, just of breaking up what it was like for the entire game. So one of the easiest things I did was looking at all the regions in the game, okay? There's 5. So each region breaks it down into how many Lilith statues there are, how many waypoints there are, how many strongholds there are, and how many side missions. So just like with the side missions, I'm hoping we also get strongholds as well. And that was basically like 3 per region. So hopefully we also get 3 new strongholds. Now, the stronghold is awesome. It is like a larger dungeon. It's almost a miniature raid, in that each one has its own storyline and enemy or boss to fight at the end, and it's really well done. Now, it's also one of the big things that pulls you into, after beating the game, doing seasons. Because in the Eternal Realm, I believe it's once you complete it, it's done, unless they changed that very recently. But in the season, all those strongholds are back, and you can fight those, and enjoy the stories again for each of them. So basically, I'm hoping that this expansion that gives us Kurast and a new type of new character class. I can't recall what they said that was going to be. It sounded like almost like a blood paladin or something. Had a real unique name. And they was even partially compared to like a druid. So it was kind of interesting as to what it was. But yeah, that's my thought. That each big expansion for Diablo, not seasons and not like, like new modes or things like that. The actual full large expansion would come with a new player class, new story missions, like a new campaign basically, new side missions, a new world boss, and new strongholds. So basically a little of what was in the entirety of the campaign, not just a new story and new area. I mean, that's awesome, don't get me wrong. But I'm really hoping that's like a vertical slice of the entirety of the game, because that would make it really awesome, and you get a lot of hours out of that, and it's exciting. The idea that you get like a new region like that, a new story every year. Now, I don't know how that's going to work exactly. I'm going to guess that it's not going to be a free expansion, because it's big, it's meaty. And in the past, with like Diablo 3 and with World of Warcraft, the expansions were purchasable. So I'm guessing that's what they'll do. But if I'm looking at the cost of Diablo 4, which retailed at like $70 US, which is, kind of the new price right now for video games, I'm guessing it's going to be like 25, 30, something that isn't too insane as of a price Who knows? Maybe they'll even throw a season in with it. I don't know. I'm guessing we'll get that price information at BlizzCon as well. So, and it's again, it was a leak, so we can't be positive about the whole thing with Kurast, but it would be awesome if that's true. And the other part of the leak was you're going to be going after the Lord of Hatred, which makes sense if you played Diablo 4, especially with the kind of cliffhangery type of ending it had. Yeah, Mephisto was a big part of that whole story arc because, again, Lilith being Mephisto's daughter. So, but yeah, I think that's really exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Spider-Man. Okay, I'm going to upset some people here, and I apologize. Spider-Man 2, I like a lot, and I finished it. I finally finished the campaign. I have some side missions to do and some events like in the open world to do. But the actual main campaign involving, you know, Venom and both Spider-Men, that's completed. I'm done with that. I would give it, if I wasn't feeling generous on a day, I would give it an 8. And feeling generous, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's great, but I feel that the tuning of Craven soldiers just doesn't make sense on a normal difficulty. Like, they're just brutal. They're brutal. And the game teaches you ways to fight them that you cannot use because you're getting swarmed by them. So, like, the game introduces a parry system, which is awesome one-on-one or even one-on-two. That's great, right? But when you're trying to parry an enemy, and that's the only way you can really do real damage to them, and they have like a sword, and two people are snipers, and they're basically trying to get you with the sniping, you have to dodge that. If you don't dodge that, you're going to get hit by them. And it just, to me, didn't make sense the way they balanced certain combat situations. Later on, without spoiling anything in the game, there's a new faction of enemy that shows up. And they have a version of themselves that explode, and you will just constantly just get like swarmed by them, and it can get very frustrating. So I just don't feel like the difficulty balance was the same as the first game. Like, I'm fine with a challenge, but there were times where it would just get downright frustrating, man. Also, I had some really weird glitches. I don't think this will spoil anything. You get an ability called Galvanize, and 2 times I had to reset the game. In fact, one time turn the system off and turn it back on again, because during the tutorial for Galvanize, the game froze. And what was a really frightening thing, in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, you face off against Sandman. Well, the game partially froze there, as in I was moving around Sandman with Miles and not able to really do anything. So I had to restart the checkpoint. So, and then I went online and saw a lot of people having technical issues with the game, especially from the disc. And I give the original Spider-Man game from 2018, I give that a definite 9. I give Miles Morales, even though it's a shorter game, it was a great experience, I give that a definite 8.5. But when I look at Spider-Man 2, it's an 8 or an 8.5. Still a really good review, and one thing to keep in mind, it's not like I do IGN type reviews where a 7 is really a 5. If I say a game is an 8 or an 8.5, I'm saying it's not average, which would, to me would be a 5. Average would be a 5 to me. 6 would be above average. 7 well above average. 8 would be like great, you know. 9 would be excellent, and 10 would just be, you know, like phenomenal. Not perfect, but, you know, just everything running really well and done really well. So, yeah, I definitely think it's worth getting. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you kind of need to get it. The technology behind the game is phenomenal. It really is. That part is excellent. The story is excellent. The story and the performances are so well done. it is still absolutely one of the best games to come out this year. But if I'm comparing it to the 2018 Spider-Man, which was, you know, a fantastic game, a amazing game, we'll say, one of the best comic book games I've played. If I'm comparing it to that, then yeah, I would give Spider-Man 2, again, at the low end, an 8, at the high end, an 8.5. Now, next up is RoboCop Rogue City. And yes, there is a bit of what you would call, I guess, jank in the game. It is what's called a double A game, not triple A. It's not quite a small indie studio, but it's not quite a AAA behemoth studio. And they did a really good game called Terminator Resistance, right around, I want to say, 2019, I think it came out. And it finally hit Xbox, just like in October. Anyway, that game was great, and so much better than their previous game, Rambo. If you go online and look up Taeon and Rambo, wow, not good, not good. But yeah, Terminator Resistance was this really cool, almost like Fallout type experience. Very well done in the Terminator universe. The story might have been canon. I can't remember. And then it had a really good like story DLC that came out for it too. Well, RoboCop actually has like the likenesses of most of the actors from the first two movies, which alone is insane. Like that is really well done. It's done on Unreal 5. It's an Unreal 5 engine game. And I do wish on console that it was a little bit clearer. Like the image doesn't seem to fully resolve the textures at times. And that might be able to be fixed with a patch. I honestly don't know. I don't know how hard this pushes a PC, this game. But if you're a fan of RoboCop, I highly recommend it. Like, it is a great encapsulation of the humor, the incredible violence of the first two movies. Well, the first movie for sure. There's violence in the second movie, but it was toned down a bit, going for more of like a superhero book type of feel. And then they went and toned down things even more with RoboCop 3, but we won't be talking about that. However, J. Cruden Prime, I believe, told me that there's an excellent comic book adaptation of what Frank Miller's original script would have been. So that's something I still do want to check out. Because Frank Miller actually wrote, I believe he wrote the script for RoboCop 2. And I really like that. And finally, I said, sometimes it seems like I say the same thing every week. Well, I don't know if enough people saw this last week, so just bear with me for like about a minute and a half. I'm going to do a public service announcement that I did last week. And if you've seen this, you know what it is. So if you want to plug your ears or whatever, feel free. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I, Hoardergamer, give my permission for WB Games to heavily promote the game. Now. It comes out in just over 3 months. It's time for the deep damn dive. It's time for a trailer. It's time for a beta. There's no need to wait anymore. No other company's marketing seems terrified to talk about more than one game at a time. WB Games, it is time. And with that, we are done with games this week. Sometimes I like to do a small little public service announcement, you know? And for whatever reason, sometimes companies need that little nudge, that little push, you know? Okay. First up, we're going to toy around with Hallows Eve. Look at that. This is a rather new character in the Spider-Man universe who uses Halloween masks. And the detail on this figure looks phenomenal. I believe this is the first action figure for Hallows Eve. So I could see that making it a collectible. And I really love the coloring, the detail. I think it's a great looking figure. I really like this a lot. I believe it ships in, gosh, I want to say like February or March. But yeah, that's Hallows Eve right there. Next up, also from that same Marvel Legends line, Spider Shot. In a what if, Spider-Man's an assassin. Here's the figure. This also might be the only or first Spider Shot action figure. So that's a possibility. I'm not sure. I think it looks really cool. I think it looks intense. I think he definitely looks the assassin part and the Spider-Man part at the same time. And the assassin, I'm trying to look into it because I'm wondering if he actually, instead of like, you know, does that thing with his hands, the thwip to let out the webbing, if that's more like a gun now. And the webbing is like bullets. I'm wondering if that's how he works. I don't know, but I think it looks really cool. Spider Shot. Next up, this is completely out of left field, and it's one of the only new Movie Maniac figures from McFarlane Toys that makes sense. Like, as much as I like the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz, you know, the original, like, what, 1930s movie, I don't see that as a Movie Maniac. I don't see oh my god, the cousin relative character from National Lampoon's as a Movie Maniac. Red Miller from the movie Mandy, Nicolas Cage covered in blood, that is a Movie Maniac. And this version is exclusive to McFarlaneToys.com. So I definitely had to show this. The Mandy pre-order. I believe it ships in December. Red Miller. Nicolas Cage's character, Red Miller. And finally, we have something really cool and a bit of a celebration for huge Ghostbusters fans. The new Ghostbusters HasLab, which was announced last week Friday, is already funded and still has 42 days to go. 10,000 orders of this $300 HasLab set in like 3 days. And I definitely think Halloween was a part of it. It's the, you know, love of fans in Ghostbusters. Halloween was a part of it. And a lot of these fans also had the Neutrona wand and backpack. That was the first HasLab Ghostbusters had. So you have the particle thrower and the accelerator, particle accelerator, and you had the thrower already. Like, I want to say 2 years ago, I think it was. Something like that. And now the new HasLab is the Ghost Trap and the PKE meter. And you also get the pedal for the Ghost Trap. And I'm trying to see what that other thing is. I think that's part of the Ghost Trap as well. But there's lights and sounds, a lot of metal pieces. Like, they really did a great job. They kind of spared no expense. I don't think you're going to get a better replica of the Ghost Trap or the PKE meter. But yes, $300. and you have 42 days still to get it. For them to have 10,000 pre-orders in like 3 days is crazy. Like, that is a huge amount. A huge amount. There are some of these HasLabs that will go the entire 40-some day allotment and not even succeed. So the fact to do it in 3 days, now they're basically doing the bonuses that you get for, like, I think like 13,000, 15,000, depending on how many are ordered. So let me remove this here. Let me put that in the containment. I keep want to say the center, but that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Containment unit. I think just containment unit. But that is the end of our toying around this week. We are done toying around. Now it is time that we look at the future of comic books. The future all the way to 1 week from today. First up, we have Batman 139, a gorgeous variant cover, a foil cover. And I don't know about you, but this new Mind Bomb story arc with this particular cover makes me think of a very frightening enemy known as Failsafe. And it sounds like Bruce Wayne is having trouble with the parts of his mind that control Zur-En-Arrh, which is a bizarre version of Batman that Bruce Wayne created in case things went terribly, terribly wrong. I think this is going to be really awesome. There's a great jumping on point, too. When it's the beginning of a new story arc, that's usually a great jumping on point, and that's actually what they said with this issue. And Chip Zdarsky, I think, has been doing a great job with Batman. I really like a lot of his ideas. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be really cool, and I think the cover looks awesome, too. So next up, we have... I don't even think this cover art is finished yet. But this is what they had on the Lunar Distribution website. Superman 78, The Iron Curtain. Russia creates their own version of Superman, and this all takes place in the 1970s to early 80s movie version, Christopher Reeve version of Superman. Written by the same writer, Robert Venditti, who also did Superman 78, which was a really good Brainiac story. So, yeah, they're doing this, and there's also going to be, I want to say, later in November, early December, a sequel to Batman 89. So that's going to be happening as well. And I believe that's with Harley Quinn. So the first story arc was really cool. It was an interesting take of Billy D. Williams being Two-Face. Again, because it takes place in the movie universes. So Superman 78, Batman 89. So yeah, this could be really awesome. And this comes out next week. And finally, actually, no, I'm sorry, there's one more after this. Sorry. That's what we call jumping the gun, everybody. Jumping the gun. Birds of Prey number 3. Currently one of my favorite comic books. It's funny. It's completely absurd. And it's the idea that Black Canary has put together a ragtag crew of superheroes and former supervillains in order to do a heist out of all places, Themyscira, to free her sister. who's on the island. And in the last issue, we found out that King Shark is going to be the way they get to the island, as he controls a giant megalodon to come, and at one point it makes it look like it's going to eat the entire team. It was very funny. But yeah, Birds of Prey, currently one of my favorite books, and I look forward to every issue. So it's Birds of Prey number 3. Also, I'm just a sucker for a really good heist. A really good heist story usually can grab me, and that one did. This is going to be interesting and incredibly controversial. The Punisher, number 1, but it's not Frank Castle. So David Pepose is a very good writer, so I think this is going to be a cool book. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting book as well to see how this is all going to work out with a new Punisher. And I believe we got just like kind of a hint at who they are, but not a ton of detail. So here we're actually going to really find out about this new Punisher. And Punisher number 1 also coming out next week. And now we are done looking at comic books coming out in the very near future. And we are not done with the show, though. Next up, we have another review. And it is... Get ready for an awesome-looking cover, by the way, everybody. Spider-Boy number 1. Written by Dan Slott. Okay. If you love puns, and anyone that knows me knows I absolutely love puns, then this is the book for you, because there is actually a supervillain named Gutterball, and everything he does is themed around bowling. Okay? There's also... in the backup story, a supervillain. Let me get the name here, I'm sorry. Sorry, the backup story is much shorter, so it's hard for me to find it in here. Okay. Professor Emilio Helio, the Balloon Man. And he is basically like a Carnival Barker type guy who can only live on helium, so his voice is always high. And he controls balloons and the gases that like fill these balloons. And some are poisonous and dangerous. This is a insane book. And the idea is that Spider-Boy is part of a project and one of the Humanimals, which this crazy Dr. Moreau type woman, in this case, created. She like fused people with animals because she's nuts. And there's this one insane joke moment where they say, hey, what do you get when you combine an elephant and a rhino? And Spider-Boy says, hell if I know. And this insane woman hears this and's like, hell if I know. Huh. A rhino and a elephant? And apparently that gave her the idea to take Spider-Boy's friend, who's also in captivity of this mad woman, and turn him into a human elephant rhino hybrid that Spider-Boy has to face off against. A bizarre sense of humor, tons of puns. It's really cool. I like it. It won't appeal to everybody. Not everyone's gonna like villains called Gutterball or Emilio Helio. Okay, not everyone's gonna dig that. But I think it's really good. I like Dan Slott. I find him funny. I find him to be a good writer. In fact, Superior Spider-Man. He wrote the original Superior Spider-Man. So, and he also wrote just Spider-Man for quite a while as well. Oh, and She-Hulk. A really excellent run on She-Hulk. Everybody, I want to thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you. For whatever reason, if you want to see more of me, twitch.tv/Hoardergamer. Currently, right now, I'll be cleaning things up in Spider-Man 2, some side missions, some open world events, stuff like that, and also playing RoboCop Rogue City. Those are kind of the two main games. And in between that, we'll juggle some Diablo 4, and we'll finish Cyberpunk 2077. So, again, I want to thank you all for watching. If you like it, tell someone else. That'd be awesome. I don't harp and preach on it, but if you want to sub, that's awesome too. Thank you. And I'll be here next week. So, thank you very much and have a great week. Bye-bye.